From a villainous hideout on the moon to the community center in Angel Grove, all the way to the mysterious command center, you're listening to Mighty Morphin Podcast Rangers, where we cover everything from TV to movies and comics.
Welcome to another episode, and a long-awaited episode of Mighty Morphin Podcast Rangers. As always, I'm your host, Adam, and with me this time is co-host Nicholas. Nicholas, how are you?
Adam, I'm doing amazing. How are you doing, sir?
I'm doing fantastic. It's always fun to sit down and talk Power Rangers with a fellow fan. So let's get right into it. But first, because it's been a while since I've done one of these, and the viewer/listener may not know who you are. They may not be familiar with you. So give a little background, not of your Power Rangers history, not yet, but more about your podcasting history and all that kind of stuff. So kind of work in some plugs at the beginning of the show as well, if you want.
Yeah, sure. So I'm the co-host of the Vigilante 1929 podcast. I run that podcast with my childhood best friend and his father. It's more of a DC leaning podcast, but we talk about Marvel, Star Wars, anything in the fandom pop culture realm that kind of interests us, and we've had it for a little under 2 years. So kind of getting my feet wet and that realm, and yeah, just very excited to just be in this community and continuing to find new people. So yeah, very excited.
It's a good show. It's a good show. I listen
Thank
to
you.
it every episode, and I was on one of the streams that was really fun with the Spider-Man No Way Home stuff. And when you guys do a Batman one for the Batman, you know who to call. But, and not the Ghostbusters, but you can call them too. But we're not talking about Batman today. One of the rare occasions where I say, let's put Batman aside temporarily, because God knows I'm spending enough money on him.
Yeah.
But let's put that aside for a bit, and let's talk about Mighty Morphin Power Rangers. So when did you become aware of this franchise, and how did you get into it?
Wow, I've waited a long time for somebody to ask me this question, and I'm very excited to answer it. So I was born in 1995. So around then, obviously, Mighty Morphin Power Rangers was airing, but I was still a little, too young to quite watch it and fully immerse myself. So probably you're looking at like the early 2000s for me.
Okay.
Is when I really started getting into Power Rangers. Obviously, I started off with Mighty Morphin. I did it the right way. I remember like when my dad first showed me, coincidentally enough, the Green with Evil storyline, and that really kind of kicked everything all off for me. Adam, everything from like Zeo to Lightspeed Rescue to Lost Galaxy to Time Force to Wild Force to all Ninja Storm, all those, Power Ranger Turbo, all those Power Ranger shows that ran from like that 95 to, I'd say 2004 era was when I really kicked into full gear with it.
Yeah.
And then maybe 2005, you kind of start to age out of the franchise a little bit. You watch here and there, but you're not really.
Yeah, you keep track, but
yeah.
All right.
Yeah, so really right around there is kind of when I stopped, but I was really into it for like a solid like 5 years of my life, even though that feels really short to say. But you think like, okay, a 6-year-old kid probably watches it till he's like 10 or 11, and maybe that's probably a good way to kind of end a little bit. But man, what we're talking about today, this character, this franchise has really just stuck with me my whole life.
I'll do a quick recap because it's been so long since I recorded an episode of the show. But for me, I was already, I think I was 9, going on 10 when this thing kicked off.
Yeah.
And I'll never forget it. The only reason I caught it was it was a Saturday morning. I was getting ready to watch wrestling. I can't remember what show it was. I think it was Saturday Main Event or Superstars, one of those. And it was interrupted by Power Rangers. And all you see is the friggin' intro. And, it's Rita coming out of the dumpster. And I'll never forget back then because I was pissed off. Where's my wrestling? So it opens up and I'm like, what the hell is this? Where's my wrestling? Sure enough, I'm like, screw it. I'm too lazy to change the channel. Let me watch it. We'll see what this is. And I was fascinated because, you know, here you had superhero characters that were color coded, much like, you know, the Ninja Turtles. So I'm like, all right, it's kind of in that wheelhouse. I dig Ninja Turtles. Let me check this out. I loved it instantly. And you know, I think I want to say I started pretty much at the beginning. I don't know if it was the pilot or what it was, but it was in the beginning. And I remember before Tommy came on the scene, I was a Red Ranger guy. You know, there was
oh yeah, of course, you gotta be
guy, right? And of course, like any young child that age, young male child or female, I don't know if you had those feelings back then, but any young boy at around that age that got into Power Rangers, if you didn't have a crush on Kimberly, played by Amy Jo Johnson, if you didn't have a crush on her, I suggest getting a time machine, go back and grab yourself, and both of you, your adult self and your childhood self, go to a psychiatrist because there's something wrong with you if you didn't have a crush on her when you were that age. So that it was that. You know, that was that. And listen, she is what she is, but I still have a crush on her. I don't care, and I've said that. I think, look, this is the highlight of my fandom. I think I said that one when I think a couple of years ago, I wished her a happy birthday on Twitter, I think it was. And I did the whole, you know, no shame, but you were my first crush, you know. And she liked it and responded. So I was like, all right, if this was like 9-year-old me, I would have fainted. I would have collapsed the whole 9 yards. But yeah, so there was that. And then, like you were saying, once the Green with Evil saga kicked in, you know, I had this love-hate relationship with Tommy because he was really cool, and I liked the fact that he was in green, and I liked the fact that he had the dragon dagger that was kind of also like a flute, and then the dragon Zord was a cool, you know, Zord, so I liked him. But Kimberly liked him, and that was a no-no in my heart. I'm like, oh no, I'm conflicted now. So, but no, he became my favorite. To the point where I had the dragon dagger as a kid. I wanted the Morpher, but it was sold out, so I couldn't get the Morpher. And I didn't have the Dragon Zord, but I had them, as I was saying off air. I had the black and gold Megazord. Those were the two sort of toys that I had, and I think I had those the ones that, remember that the helmet, like it would switch and it'd be the human, like without the helmet, and then I had those. Back in the day. I don't have any more because my mom gave them away when I was, you know, a certain age, which I'm still bitter about, but it is what it is. She gave me life, so I can't be too mad at her. But yeah, so I had those. What were some of the toys that you had from that?
Yeah, so obviously they're unfortunately not connected to what we're talking about here today, technically. But I have this OG Tommy Oliver Red Ranger, which is when he became the Red Ranger, right after Mighty Morphin.
Yeah.
And then I got the Gold Ranger when Jason returned to the franchise, the long-awaited, controversial return of Jason Lee Scott to Power Rangers. So that's the two that I can find right now, Adam.
Shockingly, he those are cool. Those are OG figures.
Oh yeah.
Surprisingly, Jason returned recently in I think it was one of the Beast Morpher episodes.
I think so. Yeah, I remember seeing that. Yeah.
I saw it on Twitter. I remember I saw the clip or a clip of it on Twitter, like a TV spot. And I said, all right, shit, I gotta tune into this. Like I can't not watch it. Like he's coming in. So and I did. But yeah, and so, you know, I've long been a fan of this franchise. I remember the '95 movie. Look, it's not an Oscar winner by any stretch of the imagination, but it's one of those movies that, you know, you grow up with and you love it, and so despite its faults, and that's where this one lies for me. Maybe, you know, so there's that, and then I think it was I stuck through to the one that you have the figure of
Mm-hmm.
when Tommy was the Red Ranger.
Yeah.
And then I think it was after that I kind of, did other things and sort of left the franchise.
Sure.
And then it's funny because a couple of years ago, I think was it last year? I think it was last. I don't know the years. These last 2 years, it's like
Every
what
year
year?
feels like the same now.
Who the hell knows what year it is anymore?
Yeah.
All I know is I'm 1 year older and it stinks. But it was last year that my niece, who was 4, my sister, her mother called me and said, "Your niece is watching something that you used to watch." And I said, "What's she watching?" My first inclination was Batman, which I knew she liked, but I didn't like because she would always every time she'd come in my room here,
Mm-hmm.
I have the Batman figures, and she always, "Oh, I want that. Can I have it?" And I'm like, "No."
No.
While I'm alive, you cannot have it. Maybe when I'm not here, then it's a different story. But for now,
Yeah.
no. I said, "What's she watching?" She said, "Listen." So she puts the speaker on, and I can hear it's not Mighty Morphin, but I can hear the words Power Rangers in the theme. And I said, "Oh, no way!" I'm like, "That's pretty cool." I don't know which series she's watching, whatever it is. And then for Christmas last year, her mom said she wants a Power Ranger. I said, "Okay, which one?" She's like, "Get her a Red Ranger action figure." So now the franchise is 20 some odd years old.
Yeah.
Type in Red Ranger action figure to Amazon, and it's like
Wow.
hundreds of them pop up. So it's like, all right, here's the next question: which one? So ever since like I started getting the figures for her, it's like she pulled me back in. You know what I mean? And so
Mm-hmm.
um, um, and then I got because I couldn't resist, one for you, one for me type of deal. I
Yeah.
bought myself the Lightning collection. I bought a Red Ranger Jason figure.
Yep.
And I have again, you can't see, maybe next episode I'll pull them out. But I also have it's the those mini helmets that they sell.
Yeah. Yeah.
I have the Green Ranger one,
No way.
and I have. I thought it was bigger. I thought it was one of the the big ones, but it was a small
Story
one.
of my life.
Damn it. But it's still cool. And I
Yeah.
also have the. I don't know if you know this character, but it's Lord Drakken. Do you know? Are you familiar with Lord
Isn't
Drakken?
that Tommy's new character that he
It's
is like
evil,
right
yeah.
now?
It's
And yeah, yep.
alternate
Mm-hmm.
universe, yeah.
Yep.
So I got that figure, and I'm like, oh, it's just so.
It's not a bad figure. Yeah.
It's so cool. So that's what I got right now, and I was gonna get the Dragon Dagger, and I still may, but the Batman merchandise is killing me. So I don't know,
Yeah.
but yeah. So there, I kind of I'm back in. Of course, I went to see the 2017 movie,
Yeah.
which we'll
Same.
cover on the show at some point, and I really enjoyed it.
Mm-hmm.
Won't spoil how much because that's for another show, but I
Right.
really enjoyed it. And we on that front, we do have some news in terms of the future of the franchise. So we 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 know that at one point the franchise was set up at Paramount, and there was an announcement saying that Jonathan Entwistle had signed on to direct, and it was going to involve some sort of time travel plot that would take us back to the 90s.
Mm-hmm.
And then news went silent. And then we got another bit of news that's saying, yes, Jonathan Entwistle is still involved, but the franchise has moved over to Hasbro, and E1 has partnered with E1, and they've taken it over. And since then, it's now going to be Jonathan Entwistle he's still going to direct the live action movie, but he's also going to be kind of like a Kevin Feige for Power Rangers, in that he is developing a interconnected line of films, and television shows that are going to interconnect and be part of one big franchise. Uh, they say that it's going to be the live action stuff that Entwistle is involved with is going to be more adult oriented. And by that, no, I don't mean a porno, folks. When I say adult, I mean, I mean for the
More
people like
mature.
us. Yeah. For the people like us that grew up with the franchise. I mean, listen, I'm sure there are parodies out there. If you want to search that, if that's your thing, go for it. Go nuts. But that's not what we're talking about. It's going to be for the fans that are now, in their 20s and 30s that grew up with this stuff. It's going to be geared to us. But there's still going to be kids stuff. There's going to be kids programming, and they're also going to delve into some animation, as far as one of the press releases inferred. Now, we know that last we heard, Brian Edward Hill is writing the movie for Jonathan Entwistle. And I know him he had a run on Detective Comics that was really good. He did a run on Angel, the Buffy the Vampire Slayer character. He did that comic. So I'm very familiar with his comic work, and I liked it. So I'm fully on board with that choice. So what do you think of this idea of a more mature live action interconnected universe between films and television?
So I think the idea is great because I think, like you said, Adam, it kind of goes back to what the 2017 movie, I think, tried to do, where it was a little more bold, it was different,
it
was a little more darker, it kind of tried to reach that adult audience and maybe grew up with the franchise. It was very meta, and people really didn't resonate with it, and I think that totally has different things to do with it. But
there are reasons that
I think the idea of a connected Power Rangers universe, I think right now is brilliant because we're seeing right now everybody wants to do it, right? Everybody wants some kind of connected universe. In the thing right now because it's money, it's what people want.
Right.
And I definitely think it opens more story possibilities too, right? Like you so beautifully said, it kind of caters to the fans that want a more mature, maybe not, darker, but more mature approach to Power Rangers.
Right.
I know there's a Kickstarter movie going on with Jason David Frank that seems to be really more mature.
Legend of the White Dragon. We're definitely going to be covering that. Sure.
But I'm definitely with you too because I think it opens so much more possibilities. I think it's especially on Netflix too. I think the whole streaming thing makes it more accessible too. But I'm also one of those people too. I'm very old school. I would love a nice classic theatrical movie that just hits.
Sure.
But I understand too, I think the whole time travel concept too of it kind of makes my head hurt a little bit on how they can do it, but maybe it's more time jump. I don't know.
I don't know if that's still part of the plan. That was the original plan at Paramount. Whether that changed once Brian Edward Hill was brought on, I have no idea. But the interesting thing that you mentioned that we might as well talk about is that this whole plan is going to be headed to Netflix. And look, I wish that we were in a scenario where that 2017 movie hit and resonated and was a big splash. But I think given that wasn't the case, look, it didn't lose money, but it didn't make money either. Like it just broke even, right? So, so I can understand the hesitancy to say, all right, we're going to throw another 150 million at this franchise and hope that this time, audiences come out and play. Whereas with Netflix, I don't think you don't have to worry about box office. Then it's about viewership, right? It's about eyeballs on the product in terms of not necessarily just money, but how many hours watched can we get of this thing? That's how they measure their success, and obviously subscriptions, of course. But since the writing was on the wall when I think just recently was announced that the second season of the current Power Ranger series that is happening is going exclusive to Netflix.
Mm-hmm.
And apparently, the 3 or 4 series that they have uploaded to Netflix for Power Rangers, right now, all do pretty well worldwide in terms of numbers in the kids section. So I think this is what the franchise needs right now to sort of get it back to a wider audience, and sort of build it back up to maybe where it once was. Because I mean, like you said, if you say Power Rangers, most people know what the general public will know what that is. But they all like they don't know anything beyond Mighty Morphin, and average Joe public. It's like, what? It's still going? There's still more? Like there's most people don't know that. So I think Netflix provides the opportunity for the fan base is there. We have already pre-existing. Now we can try. Now that our subscribers see, look, this is a more mature thing. Maybe they'll come to it. Whereas with a movie, you can't bank on that because, again, the general audience who aren't part of this fandom think, oh, Power Rangers, that's kid stuff. I'm not going to go watch that.
Yeah.
If they don't have kids, they're going to go watch, right? So, so I think Netflix is the right move right now for this franchise. Who knows? They've done limited theatrical releases on some of their stuff, so maybe that's the case here down the road. But I think Netflix is a good home for it, and gives it every chance to succeed on a wider scale. Jonathan Entwistle is a Netflix guy. He's done some stuff for Netflix. And he seems to be a big fan of the property. So, that helps. Certainly. I mean, it's not, look, just saying somebody reads a comic doesn't mean they're going to make a good comic book movie. Tim Burton never read a comic, but Batman '89 is a great movie. Christopher Nolan wasn't a comic reader. That's why he brought David Goyer in. And so, it's not a prerequisite that if you're a fan, you have to be a fan of this stuff. But I think he knows what the longtime Power Rangers fans want. In addition to the reboot stuff, some of the OGs have been doing the, convention at home kind of circuit recently. And one of them was David Yost, the Blue Ranger, and he recently revealed that he has written during quarantine. He wrote a 8-episode limited series titled Mighty Morphin Power Rangers Quantum Continuum, and that would bring back the OGs, all of them, for one last mission. And everybody, he said, all the OGs have told him that if it moves forward, they will sign on. And he said that he's had conversations with Netflix about it. So we'll see if that happens. Now, like I'm all for, listen, this thing needs a fresh coat of paint. Have Jonathan Entwistle do that, and that's great, and I'll be there. But also, if I'm Netflix and I'm seeing the numbers for something like Cobra Kai, which is, retro nostalgia to the max, and that is one of their Netflix's most popular shows. How do you not look at David Yost and read that script and say, all right, here's money, go? I mean, the OGs will absolutely, I guarantee you, will tune in. No doubt about it. So I think, to me, that's a no-brainer. Do it as a one last hurrah before you reboot. I would say.
Yeah. And you probably, that kind of goes back to my point too, Adams. You probably have to know that, like, if one of their own is like writing a script and gets everybody else on board, right? It obviously means that they're fans of the franchise, of the characters, and that to me is where it all kind of comes back. Because you made a beautiful point too, where it's like, any Hollywood writer, studio writer can write anything, because they're a writer. It's what they do.
Yeah.
But it all comes down to whether or not you're a fan of what you're writing of. And I think for Power Rangers, that's always been the key. Is like, do you understand that fine line of nostalgia and campiness, but make it a little more mature so that it's more accessible for everybody and not just little kids. Because you want the adults to be able to watch it, but you also want kids to be able to watch it. And there's a way to do it. I mean, look at Transformers. I mean,
yeah.
I mean,
say what you want about each successive Michael Bay movie.
Yeah.
But that first one, I think, hit the sweet spot.
Mm-hmm.
And then obviously Bumblebee was great, but yeah, I mean, it's like, and again, it to me, it just seems like in the age we're in with nostalgia, like you look at No Way Home, all the return. I mean, it's been a month. Can we stop with the non-spoil?
Yeah,
the three guys are back.
It's made $1 billion.
Like, if you haven't watched it by now, it's a billion plus movie. I don't know what to tell you, but yeah, the three guys are back, and listen. I'm of the opinion that if this was just another Tom Holland installment with no other, legacy people coming back, I don't think that thing clears $1 billion. Especially in the midst of a pandemic. But you bring back the other two guys, you bring back Defoe and those guys, and all of a sudden it's must-watch film. A must-watch film. Yeah. So nostalgia in the right dose has its benefits. Michael Keaton's coming back for The Flash. And again, I like Netflix has it in front of their own face with Cobra Kai.
Yep.
I mean, so to me, that's a no-brainer green light. If I'm Hasbro and Netflix, and think of all the additional toys Hasbro could sell. Like, look, here are the OGs, but instead of their young-looking face sculpt, we have the current face sculpt. It's like. And we'll put some glitter, and we'll sell the glitter version with the silver and all that.
Adam, I have $3. Don't tempt them. I have $3, Adam. Don't do
it. No, but
yeah,
it's easy money. So I hope they greenlight it.
Yeah.
I'll tune in for sure. And the last bit of news that we'll touch on, and then we'll get into. To Green with Evil, but is that Amy Jo Johnson at one of her convention appearances revealed that she is writing a Pink Ranger miniseries for Boom Studios, a comic basically catching up with Kimberly and where she is now. So that's cool. The fact that she's willing to go back and write for that character in a comic book form, I think that's really cool, and I will definitely pick that up, because what I will say in terms of as my major want for the franchise, in terms of what Jonathan Entwistle is going to do, I say look no further than the Boom Studios comic books, because they've really taken the premise and the concept and made it a little bit more mature for the audience that grew up with it. So it's the way I would compare, for those who haven't read the Boom Studios comic books, in terms of tone and sort of maturity, they're kind of like the Arrowverse DC shows, like Arrow and things like that. So it's still, it's got the essence of Power Rangers. There is still some camp, but it's much more elevated to the audience that grew up with it. So I would take that tact if I was Jonathan Entwistle, and really mind that, because they've stayed within the parameters of the show, but they've also now gone past it and are creating their own mythology.
Mhm.
And that's the perfect blend for me. So, what would you like to see them? What would be your sort of advice if you were asked?
Yeah, so obviously, like, my advice too is, like I just said, is just have enough care for the characters that you're writing. Maybe give them a little bit of a modern spin too, because I think the whole, like, there's things in the franchise that I think probably do need an update, like the whole, kids that continue to wear red and blue and yellow and pink, and black every day at school. How are they not the Power Rangers? Because
Oh
they
yeah,
wear the
no,
same.
I think
Yeah,
like, look, they're not going to change the color scheme of the suits. Like, that's still
Yeah,
going to. But the idea that, well, shockingly, the guy who's the Red Ranger is wearing red. Like, yeah, they can
yeah,
wear different colored clothes, people.
yeah.
You know.
Yeah. So I think part of that too, and Adam, I know it's hard not always to do like a reboot or an origin, right? But and I totally get it, like the appeal of like doing the OGs, Tommy, Kimberly, Zach,
Yeah,
Trini, Billy. It's money because it's what people
sure.
recognize the most. So why would you not want to bank off Mighty Morphin? I would too,
Yeah.
if I was any studio too. But I'm just hoping for a little more modern spin on, because I think the 2017 movie definitely went for a really great start.
Yeah, it
And I'm
does.
just looking. I'm looking for just something different, but feels familiar. So I think with a little more mature writing,
Yeah.
making sure the budget is just right. It doesn't have to be, over the top, but make it where the movie looks or the
Yes.
series
And
looks good. Yeah.
Netflix, I'm not concerned about the way it'll look. I think it'll look fun.
No.
Because Netflix has money coming out of everywhere.
Yep.
Let's be honest. So that I'm not concerned with. I my thing is, like, the beauty. I think the beauty of being an interconnected universe that occupies, a film and series space, is that it will allow you could do with the rebooted Mighty Morphin team, but you can also introduce other teams
Mm-hmm.
simultaneously
Yeah.
through the shows, right? So it's not like you have to be beholden to just one thing. There could be mixing and matching. There could be all kinds of. I mean, the possibilities are endless, and
Right.
so you just need to. And I think this strategy shows you that Netflix definitely sees the potential in the franchise
Mm-hmm.
and the value of the franchise, and that's important, because if it was just at, let's say, Paramount, the chances of getting anything but Mighty Morphin for 3, 4, 5 films
Yeah.
is zero.
Mm-hmm.
And again, I'm for look. My entry point, my big thing, is Mighty Morphin. So I'm not saying don't do that. I'm just saying open yourself up to expanding the world, and I think Netflix allows for that.
Mm-hmm.
So, but we're gonna, every time there's news, we're gonna do an episode and we're gonna cover it. So stay tuned. We'll keep you updated on the news as we have it. Listen, as far as we know, behind the scenes, they've already picked their Rangers and they just haven't announced it yet. Just again, I want to caution people that if there's a lull in news from time to time, it doesn't mean things aren't happening behind the scenes. All it means is they ain't telling us yet.
Yep.
Like example, classic example. I use Batgirl, right? They
Yeah.
they they announced recently that 3 actors were joining the production, and then that the day after, one of those actors was seen on set filming with Leslie Grace. So it's like, do you think he just signed his deal and then jumped on set? No, it was like months ago, and they're just announcing it now because they knew this guy is going to start shooting. So
Right.
let's
Yep.
announce it. So, and Netflix has from what I've noticed about Netflix, when they make announcements, they don't just do one at a time. It's usually 3 or 4 participants at a time.
Mm-hmm.
So I would expect something like that. Again, I don't know that they've started casting. I don't know that they're there yet.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm just saying, if you don't hear anything, don't assume nothing's happening behind the scenes. So, but we will keep you updated as things happen, or as we hear things. Let's put it that way.
Absolutely.
All right. So, Nick, let's talk Green with Evil. So,
You mean this guy?
yes, sir. Okay, wow. Different outfit, but the same guy.
But
Yeah.
Adam, look at how nostalgia this is.
Videotape.
Look at,
That's
oh my goodness.
You know,
Oh,
3/4 of probably our viewing audience has no idea what that is
oh
or how
my
it works.
goodness. Oh,
But
the struggles with that.
the good old days. So, yeah, I used to have that too. Be kind, please rewind. That's all. If you're renting it, that's all I'll say. And if you have to look that up, it shows how young you are. But one of the things that strikes me right off the bat is that Tommy is there or appears for the first time for a karate tournament that just so happens to be happening at, everything happens in that community.
I know, right?
Karate tournaments, the juice bar is right down the thing. Couple of steps here at the juice bar. But anyway, so Tommy's there and there's this karate tournament, and of course he's facing off against Jason. One of the things I liked about this is that during their match, I like that it ended in a tie because it keeps both characters strong.
Mm-hmm.
If you just have Tommy come in and beat the crap out of Jason, then that is the most, like, the worst thing you could do to then your lead character.
Mm-hmm.
And remember, let's not forget that Tommy was only supposed to be this 5-episode arc, and
right,
and that was it. But they noticed his popularity, and then and since then he is now the longest serving Power Ranger in the history of the franchise.
Yep.
So plans change. But I like that it ended in a draw, as predictable as that may be.
Mm-hmm.
But I dug it because, again, it keeps both guys strong. It's like the Martha moment without saying Martha.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Donnie is probably somewhere. Why did you say that name? As you said? But no, it's like that without having that thing. You have to keep. You can't. In BVS, if you had just one of the two, like if Superman rips off Batman's head, A, franchise over, B, it makes Batman look stupid, and vice versa. If Batman can overpower Superman without the use of kryptonite, well then, what the hell are we doing here? So,
right.
Whenever you have two characters fighting, and you want to have both look like they're formidable, you have to kind of allow them both to have their moment to shine, but have no clear winner, so that we can have, hey, look, your guys, when you're buying a toy, do you want to buy the toy of the loser? No. You keep both winners. Is anybody surprised that it took 19 episodes, or whatever the case, 17 or whatever, however many episodes it was before Green Ranger came in, or Tommy came in, that Rita thought, I keep losing every time I friggin' send a monster and make it grow. Why not try something else? Like let me try beating them from within. Like I was like, and the way they describe it, it's like she's finally gonna play the Green Ranger card, and I'm like, wait a minute, you had this the whole time, and you went through all those monsters and lost every time, and didn't think to try this.
Yeah.
Like how is that? I like watching it now, watching it back in hindsight as an adult.
Right.
It's like, lady, how stupid are you? Like, this should have been. I'll give you 5 losses in a row. After that, you change it up, lady. It ain't working. Yeah. So I just found that funny that it took her that long to figure it out. And it's like I got to give her credit. It's not like she took the first teenager she saw and said, all right, you're my Green Ranger. She actually, clearly saw the tournament, saw basically you almost beat Jason.
Yeah.
And then she's like, let me give him an added test with the putties. Now, the first time around, that makes sense.
Yeah.
because he has no power, he has no morpher, so the putties could be a formidable threat when you don't have access to that power.
Yep.
So I got to give Rita credit in the fact that she was doing her due diligence in terms of the choosing of Tommy, and he's got the prowess, I would think, to make a case for himself. So well done there. What did you think of? Like, did you, when you were watching the tournament for the first time?
Yeah.
Were you rooting for Jason, or did you instantly kind of be like, all right, that's the guy I'm like?
Yeah. So, Adam, that's like the funny part too, is because like when I first watched this, like the episode, the series, the opening, there's like like when you watch certain things, you just know like he's the guy, or like this is something really special that's happening, because it's like Tommy's one of those guys you take one look at and you're like, this is like the franchise guy right here. Like he just has the look about him. He has the stature about him. He's like you're like saying to yourself, yeah, they're probably gonna make this guy like the Red Ranger in like in no time. But I actually really like that opening scene, because I think it's so the imagery of it all is so important, because it kind of details like that rivalry that like Jason and Tommy had kind of throughout, like I'd say maybe their friendship throughout the series. Just the fact that it does end in a draw, it kind of attests that you're not enemies. You kind of think they're friends, but they're like they gotta work together. But there's like this thing that Tommy wants to be the leader, but Jason's the leader.
Yeah.
And then Jason leaves, and then Tommy takes over as leader.
Yeah.
And then Jason comes back, and it all goes back to that one karate fight that ended in a draw, and that they're both the leader. So I think that I really appreciated that imagery, and I definitely didn't catch on to that like right at first.
Yeah, no, you're always still, again, at that stage when you're watching as a youngster. If you've been watching from the beginning, and you've grown along with the series with Jason, you're clearly rooting for Jason to win at that point.
Yeah.
But again, they never make the beauty of that is they, like, Tommy was portrayed as a good guy just there for the karate tournament, or he transferred schools or whatever. And he wasn't instantly, like, he wasn't a bully. He wasn't, so it wasn't that he wasn't likable, right? And so, and even when Rita chooses him, it's through brainwashing, so we got to keep that in mind. It wasn't a choice of, well, I lost. It's not like he said, well, I lost the karate tournament, now I'm going to turn evil. Like, that would have been stupid. Right. And so one of the things that's really funny about rewatching it nowadays is that when she does, give him the power and he awakens from his hibernation or whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
You could see that the footage is not, like, when he sits up, that's the Super Sentai footage, because the guy is clearly like
looked really weird.
a foot and a half shorter than Tommy, and it's like, okay, yeah, you could have reshot that scene of him sitting up, but I digress.
Yeah.
And the beautiful thing about Jason David Frank is he can play both the hero and the villain, and he made a great villain, right down to the maniacal laugh, like he had.
Yeah, hey, giving Frank Gorshin on him for his money at him.
Yeah, well, Frank Gorshin was a different guy. Yeah.
Yeah. But no, Adam, I'm with you, and it's funny too, because it's one of those things, like they always brought the Green Ranger back several times.
Yeah.
And it's one of those. It's not a coincidence that they brought an evil version of the Green Ranger back. It's one of those. You're so right. Like he can play the really good guy, and it's believable, and he can play the villain, and it's believable. It's so crazy.
And it's believable because he's the only one that really, throughout the course of that first season, and when they brought him back later, in the return of the Green Ranger, the clone.
Don't make me cry.
We'll cover that at some point. But when they clone him, but he's the only, like he was the only one that really gave them like where you felt, oh crap, the Power Rangers might lose.
Yep.
Like think about it. He infiltrates the command center because and Rita was smart here. Only a ranger can get in. All right, I'll make my and again, this should have been episode 5, but I digress. I'll make myself a Green Ranger, and he gets in there and like destroy them from within, and that's exactly what she did. Like he gave Alpha a virus. This is long before what we're going through now. He gave Alpha a virus, and he just started tearing apart the command center, and bye bye Zordon. So, and again, so we've had over 10 episodes worth of the Rangers, getting advice from Zordon. What do we do in this situation? Well, all of a sudden now they're on their own. So how do they deal with that? What choices do they make? When they're faced with this kind of adversity, because they've never had it on this level before. And so that was really interesting, to the point where they kept getting beat so bad that at one point 4 out of the 5 of them are like, we're done, we're quitting, like, it's over.
Yep.
Jason's the only one that said, no, we can't quit. If we quit, the world is in shambles. And more so, and this is again, this is goes back for me, keeping Jason strong.
Yeah.
When they realized finally in the last episode of the 5 that Tommy is the Green Ranger, Jason's when Alpha says, well, he must be under a spell. Jason says, see, this is why we have to continue, because we can't let Rita do this to this poor kid, take control in this way. And so it really, I think, strengthened Jason as a leader this 5 episodes, while bringing in this cool kick-ass character.
Yeah.
The interesting thing that I found too was, and I don't think this was ever covered before, but the idea that the Megazord, part of its power, part of its thing, is due to the sunlight, right? That was something that had never been explored before, I don't think. And so all of a sudden Rita is saying, well, I'll cause an eclipse. I'm like, well, that's clever, but also, again, you've went through 15 episodes of make my monster grow and losing, and just now you're like, oh shit, why don't I just take out the sun?
Yeah.
Like, hello?
Oh.
Like, you're in this universe. You should know what the mechanics are of how things work. You've been battling Zordon for thousands of years. Like, you know how this tech works?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
I just find it funny now watching back why it took her this long to try that.
And she still fails.
But although I did like even, yeah, I think that must have been the first time really that we saw the Megazord be defeated, to the point where like those Zords seemingly got destroyed, like they went back into hibernation or whatever you want to call it. So what was that like for you as a kid watching, seeing the Megazord lose for the first time?
Yeah, that was emotional. I'm not gonna lie, because it was at that moment where, again, you're a kid, you're a younger person watching this, but it's at that moment where you think, man, they really might have just lost. Like their Zords have been destroyed, they lost Zordon, Alpha has a virus. There's a Ranger that looks like one of them, but he's evil, and he literally hijacks their Zord and beats the crap out of them, which I still think is the most badass thing that I might have ever seen in Power Rangers, is when he just hijacks their Zord and just wrecks all of them. But yeah, it's emotional, and then they're all like depowered, and they're just looking at their Zords getting destroyed, and it gets you. I'm not gonna lie, because you really do. And this was like what, episode 4, so
Yeah.
Of course, there's a part 5, so you have to think that they're probably going to get him back. But
but as a kid, you don't know
it's a
that.
good cliffhanger. Yeah.
Oh,
Sure.
definitely. I think this is some of the best storytelling, of these early Power Rangers installments.
Oh yeah.
It was a long form storytelling, not just one and done.
Mhm.
Which they had a couple after this. They really had a couple 2 and 3 parters. They did it more frequently, which was cool. Another part of the 5-parter that I like was when you see Jason basically get taken by Tommy and Rita and trapped, and he's got to battle both Goldar and the Green Ranger without his morpher. And again, this to me, it seems like all in an effort to keep Jason strong. To use wrestling terminology, they're still trying to put Jason over.
Yep.
With before, and so I like that he's, the idea of, you're gonna lose to a human. Like he tells Goldar, you're gonna see how it feels to lose to a human, meaning stripped down without my morpher, without the Megazord. I could still, like, there's a reason why Zordon chose me, and this is it. It's clearly not. Look, they call them teenagers with attitude, but one of the things that I'll say about that show is that now one of those original 5 has what you describe as a teenage attitude. Like they're the 5 nicest people in the universe.
Yeah.
Like you want to see an attitude? Talk to a teenager nowadays.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
They think they know everything in the world, and they actually know nothing. So it's like, and they give you snark about it. These kids didn't have any snark. I'm like, wait, where's the attitude? Tommy was the first one to, like, okay, there, I know he's like he's being manipulated, but there's an attitude. There's no attitude with these other 5. So I always laugh whenever I hear teenagers with attitude. I'm like, what attitude? So, no, I really like that episode where Jason fights without the use of any of his powers. And of course, he gets pulled out at the last minute. But the fact that he put up a fight, for that long is really impressive. And also, it shows you the difference between the heroes and the villains, because think about it. There was a moment where both Goldar and Tommy had him at their mercy, but because they had to take an extra 5 minutes to brag and monologue and doing what villains do, it caused them to lose. So it's trying to send home that message of, that's a message to kids without stopping the episode and having the character come on and say, give an inspirational message. It's like it's embedded within the show. So I like that aspect of it.
It's also their second battle too, Adam. I don't know if you sorry to cut you off, but I think again, it's all like the imagery too, where it's it's their first battle was a draw.
Yeah.
Their second battle technically was another draw.
Yeah.
And then there's a third battle, which has a clear victor.
Yeah. And it's just before that third battle happens. Tommy gets the what is it? The Sword of Evil from Rita.
Sword of Darkness, I think.
Sword of Darkness, yeah. Now here's an issue that I have with these episodes. So she gives him this sword, and she's like, he's got to go through one more test. He's got to battle the putties again. Now, he beat the putties the first time.
And he's powered.
Yeah, without powers. Why is he battling them with powers? Like, what is that going to do? I could beat the putties. My grandmother could beat the putties. That is not a... Now, have him fight Goldar. That's more of a test. But no, putties. Like, it just, to me, it's like, that makes zero sense.
Yeah.
This is Rita going from, like, she takes 2 steps forward And no, I'm going to go backwards now. So that was a little bit like, really, just give him the damn sword.
Yeah. Especially like 3 episodes in too, right? Like, why wouldn't you give it to him in like
you've already anointed this guy as your next big thing, right?
Yeah.
But again, and then we have that, like you were saying, that one-on-one battle between Red and Green Ranger in costume, the whole 9 yards. And what a battle it was. I mean, both got the upper hand. And it's like, are they going to end in a draw for the 3rd time? But no. This time, Jason gets the upper hand, uses his blaster to sort of, dissolve the sword. And then that is what cures Tommy. And I really liked the post-fight reaction, where it's like Jason takes the impetus to say, join us.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's more of it's 2 things. It's a show of respect, but also it shows you that he knows what type of a formidable fighter Tommy is, because he almost beat him first time when there were no powers involved. And so with the right guidance, of Zordon and such, and working with a team, he could really be an advantage for the Power Rangers. So, and there's not this jealousy or animosity. Of course, Kimberly's on board with the whole idea because, and I will say, look, as much as that bothered me as a child, that he was taking away my crush, whatever.
Yeah.
It was I think it was right from the get-go, a well-developed relationship.
Yeah.
Like it felt like
it was a classic crush.
Yeah. As legitimate a relationship you could get on a kids show.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
It felt very authentic. It didn't feel forced or thrown in there like some of the CW relationships. It actually felt naturalistic and earnest. So I like that. But what was your take on that, and also the final fight between Jason and Tommy?
Yeah. So like as far as like the relationships go, it's actually still one of my favorite relationships. Like, in my eyes, as a diehard Power Rangers fan, it's always Kimberly and Tommy for me. Yeah. No matter what modern spin they can do, I know there's iterations where now it's kind of Jason and Kimberly have a thing, but to me, I'm always a Tommy and Kimberly guy.
There is? Well, I've never seen those.
Yeah. Despite the way that Kimberly broke Tommy's heart, which is still the most unforgivable thing in Power Rangers history, I don't care what anybody says. Absolutely unforgivable. If you don't know,
suck, man. You get a letter.
Oh my god.
What would be the equivalent today? A text message? By the way, I met somebody else.
Like a letter, and it's like it's not even like he reads it. Like he has like one of his friends read it to him, and he's like bench pressing. I'm like, it's like, bro, I would have dropped those weights on my throat or something if somebody would have wrote that letter to me.
It's funny because I remember when that happened. I felt bad for him, but I was like, aha, yeah. See, that's what you get.
I was like, what? And then she's like in the next Power Rangers movie, and it's like nothing ever happened. I was like, you broke my heart with a letter. Yeah,
that's when she came back bad, man.
Yeah,
I like that.
So, but yeah, so the final battle, Adam, you brought up a point too, earlier while we were talking that aside from maybe how rushed certain things might have felt, I still think it maybe plays out pretty well because it's one of those things you can only have the same battle so many different times. So I think by episode 5, it's probably a good way to wrap it up, and it's probably a good way for Jason to finally defeat the Green Ranger and convince him to go on his side and I agree with you too. The way that it's done makes Jason strong. It makes him the leader of the team, like he always was from the start. And I like that it sets off the camaraderie. Is that he knows that they have to be stronger together than they are without him. Like I think it would have been weird if this was the first season that would have had a Sixth Ranger that's not a part of the team, but he only helps out when he needs to be. Like, cause that kind of whole shit came like later in the seasons, but I dig that, it's right off the bat. It's, you have our power coin. You look like one of us. You seem like a nice guy. They're teenagers. Teenagers make friends like in the blink of an eye, so it's believable.
Yeah, and there's groups of them that hang around together. Yeah.
So and I like it, and Adam, when you think about it too, there's the cheesy moment of Alpha and Zordon like crying or whatever that history's been made, and when you look at it, like,
but it's really true considering how far he went into the franchise. He
started off the whole Sixth Ranger thing, and that's where it all began. Yeah.
But even him as a character, like no other Ranger lasted that long, and has been in that many series.
100%.
So, like, he had a starring role as the Black Ranger in, I can't remember which season it was, but
Dino Thunder, because that was the last series I watched. Yep.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. Like he was the professor all of a sudden.
Yep. That was a good season, by the way.
After reading that letter, it really send them off into a hole.
It sent them back to school.
but listen, like I will say this. Look, no disrespect to the character of Kat.
Mm-hmm. It didn't do it for me either. Yeah.
Like, look, she was good, nice to look at, but no.
Oh yeah.
But no, like, first of all, she was an actual cat, man. Like, what are you dating? You're dating an ant. Makes no sense. Like, I know Kimberly wrote the letter, but go fight for her. Go to France, wherever the hell she is, and say, listen, well, I don't know who this loser is, but he ain't me, and he doesn't have no morpher, so get rid of him. So I mean, in my look, the comic continuity can. There's a graphic novel. It's called Soul of the Dragon, and I don't know if you've ever heard of it or seen it, but I don't know if you read it, but it puts Tommy as married to Kat, and they have a kid together. I like the story, but I don't agree with that. To me, in my head canon, at some point, he's going to end up with Kimberly, and that's why I want to see as much. Look, as much as I'd like to end up with Kimberly in my fantasy land, if it's got to be somebody else, it's Tommy. And that's what I want to see in that David Yost quantum continuum. I want to see them together. Or David Yost, come and call me, cast me, and I'll be the French guy. I'll put on a French accent. I don't care. I'll do it. I'll go to Quebec for a couple of weeks, learn some.
You would let Kimberly break your heart, and so would I.
That's right. But yeah, so make it happen, David Yost. Hit me up on Twitter. But no, yeah. In my head canon, it's always Tommy and Kimberly. That's just how it is. And yeah, like Tommy's been through a lot. He has the whole thing where he loses the power because of Rita's mechanism. We'll cover that down the road as well. The White Ranger scenario, we'll cover some of that. And so, and then he becomes the leader of the team. The Red, he's become so many. He's been so many different colors, so many different Rangers, and he is. I think in terms of the general public, he's the face of the franchise. Still,
100%
to this day. I don't think that's going to change with him doing Legend of the White Dragon. I think he'll still be synonymous as a Power Ranger. Even though I'm super stoked for Legend of the White Dragon, and I can't wait to see it. But yeah, I think we've covered just about everything. Is there anything else you wanna mention about this before we wrap up?
No, just other than the fact that you got to look at this, for a product of its time. This still was like the coolest thing, to watch, and I think like you said, the Green Ranger is synonymous with Power Rangers. There's a reason why whenever they bring the Green Ranger back, it's always associated with Jason David Frank and with Tommy Oliver, and we just saw it recently. He was the face of that big. I saw this like big battle thing in one of the newer
Oh,
Power
you're
Ranger
talking
series.
about the
I think you might, yeah.
Bat in the Sun, those
Yeah.
yeah.
And he's like at the center of like this big giant battle, and he's Tommy Oliver, so of course he would be. So, especially you look at it now, like I said before, he is what kickstarted the whole Six Ranger idea, and then they kind of made a not necessarily a reboot of it, but they teed it up in Dino Thunder where it was the White Ranger that went bad, and whereas when he came back, he was a good White Ranger.
Yeah, it was
So
the flip. Yeah.
it was the flipped idea of that. So, he was the inspiration behind a lot of this,
Yeah.
a lot of the stuff that, we got afterwards. And, kudos to him too, because he seems like he's a really nice guy. I've never met him. I would love to meet him one day, but,
Me too,
he's always at conventions. He's always on like these Instagram lives, and you can just tell that he cares about the
he's very
franchise and the
much
fans.
he's very much and that's the thing. Like you can tell when and look, all the OGs, to their credit, have come back and started doing the conventions. They've really embraced the fact that look, this was a part of my past. Let me embrace it
Yep.
and be thankful to the fans, because the fans will follow you to some of your other projects.
Yep.
I've certainly there's a reason why I watched that show. It was a Canadian show, Flashpoint.
Mm-hmm.
And it's because Amy Jo Johnson was on it, and she's directing an episode of Superman and Lois.
That's so awesome.
Which I saw her in a behind-the-scenes picture with Superman, and I'm like, all right, my fanboy brain can't handle this.
Oh.
And I'm like, Superman, get your hand off her, because I'll use kryptonite on you. I'm not afraid. I'll get one of those kryptonite ships like Lex Luthor had in Superman Returns, and you'll be done for.
Yeah, right.
but no, it's so like the fans will support you in your other endeavors. Like look at Jason David Frank. Do you think Legend of the White Dragon gets made without crowdfunding and without the support of Power Rangers fans? Absolutely not. So he was loyal to the brand all these years, and it served him well. And I'm so glad that Austin St. John is come back into the fold, and
Yeah.
the Walter Jones, who they left at a certain point due to money issues and contract stuff, but they're back at the convention thing and all that jazz. And so it's so nice to see that they want to be part of the fan space. And if they get a chance to do this David Yost Quantum Continuum thing, I think it would be a nice thing for the fans. And I think fans would love it, and I wouldn't be opposed to the OG guys having some cameos in the new stuff too.
Bridge the gap.
Yeah, in some form. So, but yeah, this was a lot of fun to do. Green Ranger Saga, the 5 Green with Evil, is still part of one of the best storylines in Power Ranger history. I think Time Force had some good storylines as well. So there are some other ones that had some really solid story, but this was the one that really, I think, took it to another level. Like it showed that yes, it's a kid show, but when we're at our peak, we can also do some really like top tier stuff. So if you haven't seen it, I recommend watching it. If you've watched it but haven't seen it in a long time, I recommend going back and checking it out. It's a blast, and I can't say enough good things about it. But if you want to continue the Power Rangers conversation on social media with either of us, you can. So Nick, tell us where we can find you on social media.
Yeah, first off, Adam, truly again, thank you so much for having me on. I don't want to take too much time here, but like I said before, I had to hide my Power Rangers fandom, growing up, because it just wasn't cool. To admit back in the day. So truly, I'm a 26-year-old adult, and really thank you so much for giving me this platform to just acknowledge my fandom and just show love to a character that I grew up loving my whole life. And you carry this conversation beautifully. So truly, Thank you so much.
Thank you for jumping on board, and we've got a lot to discuss going forward, it seems. So
we sure do. We sure do. So you guys can follow me on Twitter at Nick Zednik. It's just my name, NickZednik. But most importantly, I would like you to go follow the show that I co-host at Vigilante 1939, and you can follow that show anywhere you get your podcast at. Thank you so much.
And I definitely recommend doing that because, as I said at the top, it's a great show, a lot of fun. If you want to talk to me about Power Rangers, I'm more than happy to do that. On Twitter, it's at Adam_LeadsFan. The podcast network that I run has its own Twitter page, which is at MMNPDC. We also have a Facebook group. So if Facebook is more your thing, or you just want to join the group and talk with other people, that's cool too. The link is in the description below. Click that. I'll add you and we can continue the conversation there. But until we come back, when there's, the next bit of news, remember that Tommy Oliver, the Green Ranger, and the rest of the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers are forever, from the first morph to the last. So long, everybody.